Sensitivity analysis is a really important part of supply chain design. It allows you to understand for each scenario how robust and resilient that scenario is to changes and variations in things like transportation costs and customer demand. So in this model we're looking at nearshoring strategies, where currently everything is sourced in China, but we've run a range of scenarios where we're reducing reliance on China and we're understanding how much of that volume should come from Latin America and from Europe. Now we need to understand for each of the scenarios how robust and resilient they are to changes in both customer demand and transportation costs. And now we can do this with a click of a button. So we can see that these are the scenarios that have been created within our model. We've explored different percentages of supply moving from China. We've also got scenarios that are exploring that supply moving specifically into EMEA and the European region. So what we can now do is we can select the resource size that we want to run this on, and then we can select as many of these scenarios as we want. So we'll select this China reduced offline scenario. This is where China is completely offline and supply has now moved to Latin America and Europe. And we'll also select this scenario where China again is completely offline and now supply is all coming from EMEA and the European region. So for the selected scenarios, sensitivities will be automatically generated, and they'll be testing fluctuations in transportation unit cost and demand quantity, going from -15% up through 10, 5, and then an increase of 5, 10 and 15%. And the sensitivities will look at every combination. So for each selected scenario, we can see here for the two, we'll have 98 sensitivities that will be automatically generated and then run in parallel. So all we have to do now is simply click the start button, and then we'll see that a notification has appeared. We'll be able to look at the progress of all of those sensitivities running in parallel. And what really makes all of this possible is the fact that Optilogic's platform and Cosmic Frog are truly cloud native. So what we can see here is all of those sensitivity scenarios have scaled up. Some of them are already completed and they're all running in parallel. So we're really using the elastic power of the cloud to be able to run all those scenarios. We call it hyperscaling together, and in a couple of moments all of them will be done and we'll be able to analyze the results. So now we can go to analytics and we can select this scenario comparison dashboard, and this is looking at comparing all the scenarios that we've run through sensitivity. So we can see our two scenarios and we can see what the base scenario cost is, and then we can easily compare that to the minimum and the maximum from all the sensitivities that have been run. So you can very quickly see here that worst case scenario, the maximum cost could be 300 million, which is $59 million more than the base cost. We can also see the minimum and maximum risk score for each of the sensitivities that have been run, or all of the sensitivities, and then we can quickly conclude here that actually this is quite robust. There's not a large variation in risk score across all the sensitivity scenarios. And now we can move to a more detailed dashboard that allows us to pick a particular scenario, and we can see all of the sensitivities. So for every single sensitivity that's been run, we can see the implications to cost, how that cost breaks down by the different supply chain elements, and we can also see the risk score. So in this scenario, we can see our minimum and maximum, and we can also see that it is robust because the risk score doesn't fluctuate at all really. And then we can, if we want to, go and drill into some specific sensitivities and just take a closer look at the detail within those. We can also navigate to scenarios, and we can see that all of the sensitivities have been automatically generated. And this is really useful because now we can go into one of those specific scenarios and we can either remove scenarios or we can change and tweak some of those parameters. And then of course we can rerun those scenarios. And so to summarize, once we've created our core scenarios, literally with a button click, we can select an unlimited number of those, and that will automatically run many hundreds or potentially thousands of sensitivities. That will all hyperscale inside our cloud, and then we're able to go and analyze the results and really understand how robust and resilient each of those scenarios are to these changing parameters.